Hello, Love Bay. Um, Welcome to the Mental Health Hour. I'm Dr. Tapo. Always pleased, always privileged to be here to spend the next hour with you talking about our mental health. I hope your week has been going great. It's the 25th of February. So for us, it's like the last few days of Black History Month. And I love that everywhere you see T-shirts, sweaters, posters, posts on social media saying I'm Black all year round, 365 days a year. So even though Black History Month ends in a few days, we are Black 100% and always. And so I want to wish everyone in North America, I think it's, North America really, that celebrates Black History Month in February. I hope you've had a wonderful month celebrating and just enjoying all the different activities that celebrate who we are as peoples, as individuals, as different cultures and communities. It's just been really wonderful. I'm honestly a little bit exhausted because for me, it's a very intense month, lots to do, doing speaking engagements, attending community events. There's always so much to do, but it's been a wonderful month, and I hope yours will end on a very, very high note. And that this month of February will also end on a high note, whether it's been Black History Month where you are or not. I hope you've had a wonderful month as we look forward to the month of March. 2025 has been an intensive year. I keep saying I don't know why. Like, I went from an almost chill December into this high gear January, and it's not slowing down. It does not look like it's slowing down. Even for March, there's lots to do. And I hope wherever you are, whatever it is that you do in your professional life, your occupation, even in your personal lives, that so far this year of 2025 has been awesome for you. So we're here on the Mental Health Hour. And just as a reminder, this is education, this is awareness raising, this is information. This is not replacing your medical practitioner, your physician, your psychiatrist, your psychotherapist, your counselor. That is not what I'm doing. I am simply providing information so that you can make some informed decisions about your health, about your mental health, and if you're a caregiver, a parent, a guardian, so you can make informed decisions for that person that you love and care about. So that's my disclaimer. And as always, if you have questions, comments, please text us, call us, email us. We are on WhatsApp. We are on social media. We are on YouTube and Instagram, I think. So there's lots of ways to reach out to us. We're also on email, and it's info@lovebay.com. Info@lovebay@gmail.com. So infolovebay@gmail.com. Infolovebay@gmail.com. You can text on WhatsApp or just normal message. Country code is 1, but we are not the 51st state of America. Canada is its own country. We are, though, but that's a story for another day, under British colonial rule. So, and I hope that won't be for long. But I digress. You can text on WhatsApp or normal message 437-778-3299, 437-778-3299, and the country code is 1. But again, we are not an American state. We are our own nation. And Canadians are being very, very patriotic right now. Sometimes I'm laughing because I'm like, where was all this patriotism at this point in history, or even during COVID? I mean, we had people just causing a lot of chaos. And now we know Canadians are patriotic people. I would never have guessed. So good on you, Canadians. Fight for your country, fight for your liberation. Today we're talking about alcoholism, alcohol dependence, using alcohol as a coping mechanism. And just to recap from last week, we started talking about some of those risk factors for alcohol, some of those things that put us at risk, that put us in that like vulnerable position where, and I always use this example, you can have friends that turn up at the bar or the club like all the time, and you're thinking, if they're doing it, why can't I? But there are certain things that might make you more vulnerable to addiction than some of your friends. You can have friends like who tried this drug and that drug and they never seem to get hooked, but you tried once and it's like a slippery slope. Some of it is genetic or hereditary, like you inherit it from your family, from your parents, from your community, because inheritance is not just biological or physiological, it is also social and behavioral, right? So some of it is that behavioral piece, some of it is biological, some of it is psychological. Like last week, we talked about if you experience trauma as a child or even later on in adulthood, trauma, the experience of trauma can make you more vulnerable to addiction. We talked about some of the impacts of over, and I won't say over indulging because that is kind of minimizing it. It's not indulging that we're talking about. We're talking about when alcohol becomes your crutch, when alcohol becomes the thing you turn to in moments of high stress, of anxiety, of relationship issues, of anything. The first thing you want is, I need a drink. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about indulging in a little too much wine. That's a whole other thing. We're talking about people who actually start to use alcohol as a crutch, as a way of coping with challenges and difficulties in life. Okay? That's what we're talking about. And we talked about some of these things that we need to know, that you might think like, if I have a little bit of wine, a little bit of alcohol, if I do this, it will help relax me, and it will, the fact that you cannot relax without alcohol, that should be a warning bell for you, because you are supposed to be able to relax without alcohol. But the moment you start trying to use it as relief, know this and know it well. It is temporary, and at some point it stops working. And we talked about when your body builds up a tolerance. We call it a tolerance. When before, when you have maybe even just one beer, you start to feel a little shaky. Now it takes 10, 12, 13 because your body is building a tolerance. And this is why you find a lot of people who are actually addicted to alcohol drink hard stuff. That's what we call the hard stuff, right? High levels, high concentrations of alcohol, because what people just would normally drink or what doesn't do it anymore, they've had so much of it over a period of time regularly, their bodies have built up a tolerance. So now it takes more quantities to have the same effect, right? Because your body is building up a tolerance. So these are things to really pay attention to really think about, reflect on it. And we started off talking about measuring your mental health. And one of the things we talked about was capacity. And when you're talking in terms of addiction, you need to be aware, am I the kind of person, like some of us, uh, we learn through hard experiences unnecessarily. You saw your parents, your father, your mother, whoever, struggling with alcohol. You remember what it was like when your dad stumbled through the door drunk, when he beat up your mom, or when your mom did certain things because she was drunk. You have seen it, but somehow you think, I will do better. The only way you can do better in those situations, honestly, is just abstain, because the fact that that was happening for them increases the chance that it will happen for you. And that's why you see it running in families, right? We talk a lot about generational and intergenerational. Addiction works the same way as mental health, and a lot of times as trauma as well. It can be passed on. Like I said, it can be hereditary, which is both genetically, because research has shown it actually does change the brain structure on a physical level. So the fact that your parent struggled with addiction means you are likely to do so as well. So just do yourself a huge, huge, huge favor and stay away. Do not tempt it. Don't think you can overcome this, because one of the things we've talked about is that idea that if they wanted to stop, they could have. And we know that the reality is, without the right help, a lot of people become addicted and cannot stop. You can appeal to their love for you, you can appeal to reason, they can lose the roof over their heads, the shirt on their backs, and they will keep drinking. And you're like, what is this? Some people will lean into spirits and demons, and they're possessed, and it's demonic, and it's all this, whatever it may be. The bottom line is, once you are hooked, it is extremely challenging to overcome alcohol addiction or any type of addiction without the right help. You need help. Your family and friends can stage an intervention, but if that intervention doesn't end with you attached to, connected with professional help, chances are you're not going to be able to stop. It's a lot more challenging, it's a lot more difficult, and the progress is slow. It's painful either way. It's painful either way, but get the help that you need. That is really, really important. Get the help that you need. Okay. So we started talking about those things that kind of move us towards that I need a drink. I need a drink. We started talking about that last week. We talked about, like, even on a social level, how some of us don't feel like unless we are drunk, we're not having fun. And I said that should be a warning to you as well. If you cannot enjoy social outings, your friends, music, dancing, whatever it is, if you can't enjoy it unless you're inebriated, unless you're drunk, that's a warning bell. That is a warning bell. Something's wrong, because you should be able to enjoy life without needing to be under the influence of something. And just because it's legal, and I've said this even about marijuana, which is legal here in Canada, just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good for you. Knives are legal. You don't go around with a knife in your pocket. Why? Because chances are someone will get hurt, right? Guns are legal, but you don't go around. Well, okay, we're in Canada. I'm not talking about Americans here. I'm talking about Canadians and other parts of the world where hopefully people have a better sense of gun control. But the higher risk comes from testing it, thinking you are above it, and thinking just this one time. As a therapist, one of the questions I always ask is, do you drink? And people will be like, yeah, I drink socially on special occasions and that. And most times, I would say 95% of the time, they're lying. People tend to want to minimize the amount of drinking they do. And we know that there are certain cultures where it has become normalized to be drunk all the time, to drink huge amounts, copious amounts of alcohol. And just because it's been normalized doesn't mean it's healthy, doesn't mean it's safe, and it certainly doesn't mean you will be healthy and safe if you follow those patterns. So make those decisions not based on peer pressure or who you're socializing with, but take time to look at your own situation. A while ago, I was at a work event. It was in a park, and some parks, most parks in Canada, you're not allowed to drink at the parks because they're public areas. They're children, young, vulnerable people. So you don't like take your pint and go sit in the park and drink. You will be fined heavily. You might even get in trouble, end up behind bars, depending on how things transpire. And a young woman turned up. It was 2 in the afternoon, sometime between 12 and 2 in the afternoon. And she turned up to this event that was for youth and children, a family thing. And she turned up with a can of tequila at 2 in the afternoon. And the way her eyes were kind of dulled, and that was likely not her first can. And I remember looking at her and thinking, but why? Like, why at this? So, for those of you who don't know, tequila has somewhere between 35 and 55% alcohol. Tequila has between 35 and 55% alcohol. And she was drinking this in a can like she's drinking Coca-Cola at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in a park where it's not even legal to do that. And this is a young woman, I think 23 or so years old. And that's already her level of drinking on a regular day. And it was even a work event, I should mention that. And she had this can of tequila like she's drinking a soft drink or a soda, depending on what you call it where you are. 35 to 55% alcohol. And it's 2 in the afternoon. And then I overheard them talking about, and then we're going to go here and go there, and because it was a weekend. And already 2 o'clock, she's already at 35 to 55%. They plan to go to the clubs and this and that for the rest of the day and the evening and that. How much alcohol do you think on that day that young woman consumed? Now, you might say, well, if she doesn't drink during the weekend, it's only like the weekend or when she's partying or socializing. We have what we call binge drinking. Now, the thing about binge drinking is you're drinking a huge amount of alcohol in a short space of time. And once you do that, your body has to compensate, right? So binge drinking is when you drink an excessive, a huge amount of alcohol in a short period. And that short period, we can be talking about one afternoon, one evening, one day, but you're drinking so much in a short period of time. So think about that. So when we talk about binge drinking, and again, here we're trying to look within ourselves, our own patterns of behavior and all of that. So here are the numbers. When a man drinks 5 or more drinks in 2 hours, that is called binge drinking. 5 or more in 2 hours. For a woman, it's 4 or more drinks in 2 hours. How many times have you done that? So you might say, oh, but I'm only taking shots and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. But think about it, especially if you're drinking things like vodka, you're drinking things like tequila. Those things have a high level of alcohol. Here, I think here in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, a normal beer has between 4.5 to 7% alcohol. That's a beer. Once you start looking at the hard stuff, the tequila, the vodka, the spirits, you're talking a minimum of 35% or more. So 35%, let's say a normal beer has about 6%. So in one drink, you have drunk the equivalent of 5 beers in one drink. And then you ask for another, and you ask for another, and you ask for another. And if binge drinking is 5 or more drinks in 2 hours, but you're actually drinking the hard stuff, how much alcohol is that in your system? And because you've built a tolerance, because you've been doing this for a while, you might say, oh, but it's just a slight buzz or whatever it is. It's not always about how much your head is swimming. It's also about what your body needs to do to break down that alcohol and process it out of your body. You have to think about it at every level. So it's not just about your impaired judgment and your decision making, or maybe you've lost your coordination, your speech is slurred. Maybe some people start to experience blackouts, like you can't even remember what was said and done because that's how much you drank in a very short period of time. Nausea, vomiting, alcohol poisoning as well, especially for young people, and you haven't built that tolerance. And all of a sudden, you've introduced huge amounts of alcohol into your body, which does not have a tolerance. Your body can actually react. Alcohol poisoning, you have to go to the hospital where they will have to pump out the alcohol from your body. Again, alcohol is perfectly legal. And this is why you have to think carefully about your consumption. Just because it's legal does not mean it's safe. It does not mean you are safe. And maybe your friends can do all that, but you can't. Okay? So, again, get in touch. If any of what I'm saying is resonating, if you have questions, comments, or even just to say hello, I'm listening from wherever you are. It's 437 778 3299, 437 778 3299. Get in touch. So binge drinking often happens in social circles, right? It's your birthday, oh, I turned 30, or whatever age you've turned. And so you're turning it up, right, with your friends and your buddies. So you might lose track of how much you're drinking. But know your body. And health professionals recommend that for every 2 or so drinks, have a glass of water. Like, you really should be able to enjoy a party without killing yourself, without poisoning yourself. If you can't enjoy things without being high or drunk, I strongly suggest you seek therapy because there's something wrong. I'm recalling right now a client that I had who came to see me along with her partner. So it was couples therapy. And a major issue for them was, unless they had been drinking, they just did not have sex, did not enjoy lovemaking or anything. So they would drink just so. And obviously, there's an issue. Why do you need to be drunk to have sex with your partner? Why do you need to be drunk to enjoy hanging out with your friends? Why do you need to be drunk? To enjoy yourself. There's an issue there that needs some looking into, and I strongly, strongly advise you to do that. So, binge drinking, while you might think, well, I haven't had anything to drink all week or in the last 3 months, or it's a special occasion, sometimes it's the fact that you have not been drinking for a long time that makes you vulnerable, because suddenly you're introducing a high amount of alcohol in a very short time and it can shock your body. Okay, so binge drinking, young adults, college students. And I said even last week that if you're the parent of a young person in college or university, it doesn't, okay, I have to say this because a lot of parents will say, I raised them, or I raised them in church, or this is not what they saw at home. So there's no way they can be doing this. Please put that aside. Not because it's impossible or it's not true or whatever it is, but because when they leave home and get into certain environments, there's a lot of peer pressure. I have seen grown men in their 50s being pressured by their peers into certain behaviors. So for you to think you're a young person who is now out in the world for the first time in their lives, maybe they moved out, they're living on campus or somewhere close to their university, there's no curfew even. So if they want to stay out there and drink until 2, you're not there. And yes, you believe you raised them better, and you probably did, but they're going through a period in their life where they're trying to figure out what independence looks like, feels like. And unfortunately, for a lot of young people, they think it means you party all night, you drink what you want, you smoke what you want, you sleep randomly with people, whether you have protection or not. So have those conversations with your young people, and let them be conversations that are safe for them to be able to actually ask questions, answer questions, and reflect. So it's not accusations, because that won't get you anywhere. They will just clam up, they will hide things. And the thing with children, they get better and better at hiding, at manipulating. It's just what it is. That's the parent child dynamic. I have seen, like, sometimes with my nieces and nephews, little baby, a year old, 6 months, whatever, they're already manipulating. They already know how to press and pull certain strings and buttons and all that. So now you think your 18-year-old who has left home for the first time, no curfew, no, if you live under my roof, you do what I say anymore. They're going to go wild because they can. They're going to go wild because they're now surrounded by people with a similar mentality. And we know that's how group mentality works. If everybody's jumping off the cliff, most definitely your child will jump too. Let us not fool ourselves. It takes a while. No matter how much you've taught them, they will want to experiment. And I said this last week as well, that a lot of young people are self medicating as a way of coping with the pressures of university studies, college. Some of them have to have jobs. Some of them are now also exploring romantic relationships, discovering their sexuality, hooking up with this person, being dumped and ghosted by that person. There's a lot going on. And the unfortunate thing is, there's a lot of alcohol, there's a lot of drugs, and there's no control. The universities will not control it because honestly, they can't. They will have certain areas, and like when I went to my university at York University, there were 2 or so bars on campus for students. And so students are going from class to their dorm to the bar because that's where they're socializing. And of course, over there, they will card them, they will ask for ID and all of that to make sure that they can drink. But that's the legal places. There are a lot of other places, parties in dorms, illegal gatherings here and there. And I'm using the word illegal as in they're not sanctioned by the authorities. Young people are running their own lives. And the sad part is alcohol and drugs are part of it. And when I say drugs, I'm talking all of it, including prescription drugs. Cocaine, fentanyl, heroin, alcohol, all of that, marijuana, so much, ecstasy. These things are just abundant where young people are. So even if you raise your child to never go there, have the conversations. Have the conversations. Remind them what you taught them. Remind them those expectations, but most importantly, remind them of the risks and that they are now an adult. You cannot chase after them, monitor them, parent them the way you did when they lived under your roof. It's now on them to make wise decisions, safe decisions. So, a lot of peer pressure, a lot of social influence, unfortunately. So, young people are finding themselves now in involved in certain behavioral patterns that are detrimental to their mental, physical, and emotional well-being. And that is dangerous. We know even for young women, especially, rates of violence, sexual assault, rape are high on campuses. They're high amongst young people because of the drinking and the drugs. So it is safe and important, rather, it is important to keep yourself safe. Keep yourself safe. One of the things I advise young people is don't drink with people you don't know. Do not drink with people you don't know. Don't accept drinks from the hand of someone you don't know. And sometimes, even if it is your friend, we know our friends. Everyone has had that friend that if this friend hands you something, don't drink it because they are crazy. So when you hang out in these college and dorm parties and all of that, on campus, off campus, it can be maybe it's your first job. Yeah, like when I lived in Ireland, the Irish had the habit of going to the pub as a work group. And I went a few times, but realized that it's not for me. There was a lot of drinking. And so, if you find yourself in those situations for young people, if you're out there and you're listening, maybe you're the parent or guardian or sister, brother, auntie, uncle, grandparent of a young person, offer them that advice. Do not drink or eat anything from somebody you do not know. If you don't know them, don't take it because you might not know what's in there. This is how date rape happens a lot of times, sexual assault. People slip things into people's drinks. They're not aware, they're partying, whatever. They're accepting drinks and stuff from people they don't know. And they end up in a situation that is traumatizing. So it's really, really important. If you're going out to parties, to pubs, bars, clubs, whatever, do not take a drink from the hand of someone you don't know. And for those that you do know, pay attention who's giving you drinks. And if you have that crazy friend, you know that friend. If you look at all your friends that you hang out with and say, which one is more likely to spike your drink, you know that friend, don't take a drink from them. Be safe, be careful. Be safe, be careful. If you're a parent of a young person, these are some of the discussions you need to have with them when they're moving out to college, to university for the first time. Have these conversations. The other thing that I advise people, and this is at any age, don't buy alcohol and bring it home for you to drink on your own, because you will feel it's like, and I give the example of ice cream with me, because that's the one that I struggle with. It's ice cream, because you sometimes don't even realize how much you're consuming, and then you look up and you've drank 3 bottles by yourself of wine. So try and not do that. Hang out with friends, go visit a friend, go to a restaurant, a pub, or whatever with your friends. Drink there, don't bring it home. Maintain your home as an alcohol-free zone. You're not keeping it there. And this is when I was talking about it last week, when I was talking about even people who are using it, depending on it to relax, to cope with certain things. You find yourself buying more and more quantities. So when you get home, you drink. And remember, the body builds tolerance regardless of whether it's because you're partying or you're depressed or whatever. Your body builds tolerance. The more you drink, the more it builds that tolerance, until you're now buying a lot of alcohol and consuming it by yourself. You have a dependency issue. Okay. So pace yourself, alternate every drink with water, eat before drinking. So a lot of, I remember I had some young friends who, like when I was younger, would say things like, today I'm not eating. And I'll be like, why? And then they're like, well, because when I drink, it will activate faster, right? So they want to drink on an empty stomach because they want to be drunk quicker with less alcohol. And it's true. If you drink on an empty stomach, the alcohol absorbs quickly. But what that means also is you are drinking way more. But when you eat before drinking, the impact is not so bad on your body. It absorbs a lot slower, and it doesn't ravage your body as badly as if you're drinking on an empty stomach. Know your limits. You have to have limits. And nobody can set those limits for you but you. You are the one who should set your limits. I'm only having 2 drinks today. If I go beyond that, I know it won't be good for me, and stick to that. And drink those drinks slowly. Drink them slowly. Okay. So 437-778-3299. Get in touch. Text us on WhatsApp. Text us normal messaging, and let us know what you think. Ask your questions or just say hello. Okay. So that's binge drinking. That's when you're looking at how much alcohol am I drinking at a time. So there's something that we call alcohol dependency, or it's a chronic disease. So we're moving a little deeper. We're not just talking about when we're using it as a coping strategy or mechanism for life's challenges. So when you go like to your doctor or physician, psychotherapist, they will often talk about alcohol dependency or alcohol use disorder. Now, if you remember last week, I did clarify that addiction is a chronic disease. It is a disease, it is an illness, and it is treatable. Can you be cured and be like, I'm 100% cured, like with chickenpox? No. But you can get treatment and you can recover, and you can live healthier, but it doesn't mean you're cured. It means you're in recovery. So that alcohol use disorder, and you find some people will go 15, 20, 25 years. I once had a client who went for many years without drinking. And they were happy in a stable relationship. And then midlife crisis came knocking. They started having relationship problems. They started a lot of stuff going on. And after over 20 years of not drinking, they started drinking again. And the thing is, it's not like you say, oh, for every 20 years, it will take store, like just like that, immediately. After over 20 years, they were hooked and were struggling to stop again. So it's not that you're cured. You are in what they normally would say in the sector or industry, you are recovered or recovering rather. It's an ongoing thing. Like every day you have to pay attention to triggers, to stressors, to things that increase those temptation levels that want to push you to again start drinking or using whatever it is. So, alcohol dependency or alcohol use disorder, abbreviated as AUD, it is a chronic disease, it's a medical condition. We're not talking about a bad habit. We're not talking about they lack willpower or they just don't want to. I cannot tell you how many times people will say things like, if I wanted to stop, I would. I can stop anytime. Oh, I just do it just on special occasions. Oh, I'm a social drinker. I'm like, okay, if you're a social drinker, how many times have you gone out this week to socialize with your friends? Five. How many times were you drinking over there? Five. So to label it as social drinker is just another way to deny that you have a problem. So it's not a bad habit. It's not lack of willpower. It's not that they don't love you or don't even love themselves. It's that they are addicted. They have alcohol use disorder or what we call alcohol dependency. It impacts brain chemistry, and once your brain chemistry has been impacted, it is difficult to stop drinking. And I've talked about like even some women who can't stop even when they're pregnant, so their babies are born with fetal alcohol syndrome, FAS, and you can see how it impacts children. Children show symptoms of they have learning disabilities, learning challenges. They have a hard time controlling their emotions. They have a hard time controlling even just generally their behavior. They have a really hard time because their mother was drinking when she was pregnant and she could not stop. Often they're born premature with even physical disabilities sometimes. So, drinking, like I said, just because it's legal does not mean it's safe, and it doesn't mean you are safe. So, because it has impacted that brain chemistry, and she knows she's a mother who loves her child, but she can't stop, you should get help immediately. Get the help that you need. So we talked about tolerance develops over time. So that regular alcohol consumption leads to tolerance, and then you need more and more alcohol for the same results or for the same effect, which means it's increasing your risk to addiction. So here's the thing, and I want us to really, really understand this. So we talk about stopping, and why it's important to get help is because stopping can actually be dangerous. because we have something we call withdrawal, right? I have known some clients, especially there was a period in my career as a therapist when I was working quite a lot with people struggling with addictions, and it was alcohol, it was gambling, it was sex, it was drugs, different types of drugs. And so withdrawal is when you have been addicted, your body has built a tolerance, you have been regularly using, whether it's alcohol, that drug, whatever. And then you try to stop. And you're doing this maybe without help, without properly planning for it. And especially for those that have been drinking for a while, a long time. And the older you get, actually, the harder it is. So withdrawal can be dangerous, because when you stop that alcohol suddenly, just like I was saying, when you suddenly drink huge amounts of alcohol, it impacts your body, and your body is shocked into some kind of reaction. When you try to stop, it's the same thing. You've been drinking and drinking and drinking. Your body has built the tolerance. It has made adjustments to try and keep coping and moving along with your consumption. And then you stop suddenly. That can cause severe withdrawal symptoms. And withdrawal symptoms is when the body suddenly goes into shock because you've stopped. You've been doing it for a while, the body adjusted to keep going, and then you just cut it off. Your body can react in severe withdrawal symptoms: tremors, seizures, delirium, nausea, like a lot of like just throwing up, fevers. Like we've seen some of this like in TV, and you might think like they're exaggerating. Withdrawal is very, very, very hard on the body, because you have put it through so much, and it did what it needed to do to adjust to what you were subjecting it to. And then you suddenly cut it off, the body goes into shock, it reacts to that, and now it feels like it has to compensate again, right? And that's why you should always get help. Get the help that you need. Don't withdraw by yourself at home, because things can go really, really bad. You need to do it in a safe clinical or medical environment where you have medical, whether it's nurses, physicians, whoever, who can help the body physically go through withdrawal in a healthy way, so that those severe withdrawal symptoms that can actually impact your body in really, really dangerous ways, it's under medical treatment, it's under medical care. They will know how to take care of you. And this is why people go to rehab, right? This is why people go to rehab, because if it was just as simple as just stop, we would not be talking about problems with addiction in society, because people would stop. Most people who are addicted today don't want to be. They don't. If they had a magic wand and could stop, they would do that, because it has destroyed their relationships with their partners, with their children, with their parents, with they've lost their jobs, their careers, money, homes, life generally. Some time ago, I had lunch with a friend of mine, and she was telling me about a police officer here in Canada. 15 years in his career, he had a good career, like he was a good cop. And then he got injured on the job, started taking prescription medication, got addicted to that prescription medication. Within a year, he had lost his job, he had lost his relationship, he had lost his home. Because that addiction started driving not just his behaviors, but everything. And that's what addiction does. It takes over your life. So I'm telling you, most people who have an addiction, whether it's to sex, porn, gambling, shopping, whatever it is, they want to stop. They want to stop. They want to stop, but a lot of people can't, because it's not as easy as, okay, just stop. And that's why you need help. Okay, I'm looking at some of the messages that have come in here. So one person says, good topic, Dr. Tapo. They're listening from Amsterdam. Lovely to hear from you from Amsterdam. Somebody's watching from Windhoek in Namibia. I don't know if we've ever got a message from Namibia before. I think we have, but thank you for listening in Windhoek, Namibia. We have somebody says, my husband eats a lot when he drinks. Um, I mean, a bottle of beer, without it, he can't eat as much. So again, this is what I'm talking about. When alcohol is the thing you're leaning into, depending on for dealing with some kind of issue. Now, this listener is in London, UK, and she's saying, my husband eats a lot when he drinks. I mean, a bottle of beer. So I assume she's saying he drinks one bottle of beer and that helps him eat a lot. Now, I don't know if it is that he's trying to eat a lot, or she's saying he's eating too much and shouldn't, and he's eating too much because of the alcohol. Either way, if alcohol is what is driving his appetite, there's an issue there. And I would strongly suggest your husband sees a registered, licensed dietitian, because if there's something wrong there, they will help. Dietitians are not like nutritionists, and I'm not knocking nutritionists, but dietitians work clinically to see if there's something wrong on a clinical medical level that is impacting your food intake, your appetite, your diet, the way your body processes food, all of that. So I strongly, strongly suggest that if your husband is eating a lot, whether that's the objective or not, I'm not quite clear on that, see a dietitian. They will help uh, develop even like healthier eating habits. If it's that he's not eating enough and he needs the alcohol or the beer to be able to eat, again, they can help with that. If you have no access to a dietitian, but even the dietitian might refer you to a physician. And the thing is, the dietitian will also, depending on where you are in the world, help you get tested. So they might do blood tests and all of that to see the levels of your vitamins and all of that in your body, right? But if alcohol is somehow driving your consumption and you can't eat if you are not drinking, or you're eating too much because of your drinking, either way, I strongly, strongly, strongly advise that you see a dietitian if it's a medical or dietary issue. It could also be a mental health issue. So also consider seeing a psychotherapist about that. But I think the first call should be a dietitian, a properly licensed and registered dietitian who knows what they're doing. Okay. And then we have someone from Quebec City. Thank you for listening. And they're saying, I drink one bottle of beer a day and eat. You in Quebec City should hook up with the guy in London, UK, and have your one beer and your food together. Anyway, the guy in Quebec City, or the person in Quebec City, is saying, I drink one bottle of beer a day and eat. Is that dangerous? So I can't say yes or no. And the reason I can't say yes or no is I don't know what impact that is having on you. You know, you know. And are you really just having one beer, or does it start with one beer while you have your starter and then another and then another? And by the time you go to bed, you've had three, four, five, six, seven beers. Remember, binge drinking is drinking a large amount in a small space of time. So I don't know. In Quebec City, I won't say your name, are you seeing an impact of this pattern of behavior of drinking when you eat? Are you saying you can't have dinner without your beer? Are you saying the beer helps it? I mean, one of the things is for a long time, and I need to say this. Sometimes we get I will say, advice or information from people who benefit from that. And what I mean here is for a time, they were saying you should have a couple of glasses of wine or a glass of wine every day. It's good for your health. Who do you think was benefiting from that? Who do you think was benefiting from that? So when you read something like that, don't immediately go and say, oh, great, and go buy your 30 bottles of wine for the next 3 months or whatever. Do your research. And by research, I would suggest you look at government websites, medical websites, look at the sources, who is saying that, what research went into that, and is that the right decision for me? So again, remember I said for some people you might think, well, they're saying I should drink a glass of red wine every evening because it has flavonoids that are good as what's that word we like attaching to superfruits and all that. I know there's flavonoids that are supposed to increase something in your blood and your body and blah blah blah. And for a long time people were being advised and pushed to be drinking red wine regularly. And then the research changes again. And the thing is, there are people who benefit from such information. Do your research. And even after that research, look at yourself. Remember what I said, that if your parent, your mom, your dad had addiction issues, you are at a high risk yourself. So don't start adopting behaviors that might lead down a slippery slope. Make decisions that are wise for you. Do your research. So, is a bottle of beer a day good or bad? Is that dangerous? I honestly cannot say, but look at the impact it's having on you, your health, and see if you don't drink it for 2 or 3 days, do you start to feel something? And I'm going to believe you when you say a bottle, because to be honest, a lot of people say a bottle, and what they actually mean is 3 or 4 or 5. But you say a bottle because you're thinking that's more socially acceptable. So I'm not going to admit that every day on my way from work, I pass by the beer store and I buy a 6-pack. And by the time I go to bed, that 6-pack is done. A lot of people do that. And no, that's not healthy. It's not even healthy for your pocket. So I cannot say if that's dangerous or not. Look at your life. What impact is it having on you? What risks have you encountered that increase your vulnerability to that one beer turning to 4, turning to 8, turning to harder stuff, turning to addiction? 437-778-3299 or email infolovebay@gmail.com. It's always such a great, great pleasure to spend this hour with you. I'll tell you this, every time, like quarter to, like 45 minutes, I'm starting to get tired, and I think you can tell. So I love it when you text, when you write in, because it gives me a moment to rest. It's very, very hard. I don't know how people do it, talking for a full hour. I am exhausted. I am exhausted, but I am so, so grateful for people who listen in, for people who heed this advice and information, and educate yourselves and make better decisions. See dietitians, psychotherapists, physicians. If you think you have a problem, for those of you in college or university and you're thinking, like, yeah, that's been me, and I've lost control. Most universities and colleges have student wellness centers. They can have you with a therapist, they can help you get the help that you need. But please, please, please get the help that you need. Don't be ashamed to make better decisions for yourselves. Don't be ashamed to admit when you need help, because that help will definitely save your life, save your relationships, save your health. Okay, so my time is up. I wish you a wonderful rest of the evening, week, February, and definitely 2025. Every week I've been asking for someone to buy me a ticket to the Caribbean. I'm still waiting. I'm thinking somebody will text one day and say, here's the link to the ticket. I'm hoping. And my birthday is coming up in April. So if you're the generous type, I love gifts. Think of me in April. Good night.